Hey everyone, this is Osiris Alvarado speaking, otherwise known as Osiris the God, and I am the creator of the short film slash brick film slash fan film Godzilla, the War of Zarab and Mephilas. And as this 30-second disclaimer you see on screen reads, this is not an idea that I thought about my own. This is an original project idea that was thought up by Christopher Stewardson under the YouTube name SpiderKing389, otherwise known as Tarantula Productions. Now, this project was something that I had thought up of since I had really started it back in September of 2025, because the month before that, I came back from my very first trip to Japan. And it was after that I was having Godzilla on my mind, and I thought about the fan films that I liked as a kid in 2012. And I remember trying to search for this film on YouTube and it not being there for the longest time. So when I looked it up on the Internet Archive, it wasn't on there. When I looked on Dailymotion or Vimeo, wasn't on there either. In fact, when I tried to look up this film just anywhere on the internet in general, there was only really a Reddit post and a Facebook post that existed. However, there also was a fan trailer that was created by what was formerly known as the account as Gojira Edits 2012. Nowadays, he's known as Supreme Roshi, who was actually a friend of Christopher back in the day, and hopefully today. That he made a fan trailer back then, and it was when I saw that fan trailer, not only did it show footage of the original film, but it also had names of the cast members who were part of it. And not only that, but I thought to myself, hey, seeing those people's names made me think, this film does exist in their minds, and it exists in the minds of people who watch the film. But I thought, if people can't see the original 28-minute long film, as that's how long it was back then, I thought, people should see something of this film to know that it existed and that it inspired people. So I thought, hey, the following month, I want to work on this project and I want to make it entirely out of Legos and stop motion. And this sequence you're looking at right now, this was the first shot that I created for the whole film. And it was with this, I also need a voice actor, and the guy you're listening to is Colin Silber of 928 Studios Incorporated. He was someone who I knew on Instagram for more than about a year ago. And when I searched up his YouTube, he made a YouTube short of him voicing villains. And I thought, hey, if he can voice villains, why can't he voice Alien Mephilas in this? So I asked him if he could do it, and he said yeah. And he sent me emails of his voice recordings, in which that helped me a really great deal of really getting this film going. And yeah, this title sequence right here, Christopher utilized this same music for his movie, and I immediately wanted to utilize the exact same music, and I thought it just sounds really too damn good to ever leave out or have replaced with another song. And, I really wanted to have an outline for this title sequence to be in red, just like how Supreme Roshi did in his original fan trailer, but I didn't know how to do that. And I just thought, just having the title sequence as it is, just as good as it remains. And here we have our three human cast members. The one voicing Aaron here, the guy in the blue shirt, that is Frozen Vibranium Productions. He is a well-known stop-motion animator on YouTube and Instagram. He is someone who I just saw his content for a long while, and when I followed him on Instagram, I just asked him in the DMs if he wanted to voice act in it, and little did I know, he actually does a lot of voice acting for stop-motion projects, because he has an entire playlist as of now for more than 270 videos in that playlist that he had worked for other projects for other people. And I only realized that after I had him cast in this, and I was just immensely impressed with what he did and how he able to contribute to this role in the film. And the person who voices Hannah here, the girl in the white shirt, that is done by someone only on Instagram under the account Frisk the Eevee, or known as Michelle. And I was really, hard pressed to look for a female actress, because admittedly, I don't really know that many females on social media. But with that being said, I did know some, and she was someone who I wanted to ask, and she was really willing to do it, and I really appreciated her helping out with this. And the person who voices Ben in this film, that is done by Samuel Hockett, otherwise known as the Salmonator, someone else who also did his own stop motion projects on YouTube and Instagram. Ever since he's sort of retired from it now, and honestly, I can't blame him, because stop motion is a very time-taking process, and it's really good to just look out for your mental health and really take care of yourself before you really want to burn yourself out creating things that just feel more like a chore. And here we have King Ghidorah and Gyaos' first appearance. This is one of the earliest animation footage that I had filmed for the movie. And the music that is playing is Endless Storm by Makai Symphony. And I was a little intimidated to utilize the music just because of how, booming it sounds, because it's essentially Attack on Titan based. But with that being said, I was able to implement it well enough, and even had it at least fade off so it doesn't just abruptly end as it does. And when filming for these human sequences, I originally was gonna have them be puppeteered with invisible Lego stands, just have them bounce around and just move around. But I thought, that's not really good for the selling illusion of this being an animated film. So I just decided to film these sequences in stop motion, and I really am glad that I did that because, it's all just dialogue, and as much as they are just speaking, they do have movement and they do have gestures to show, and I really did like how I made them move in the bit. Just like this sequence here I did with Ben's character. It was still a lot of fun, even if there wasn't really big action sequences. Because that's something else I'm proud of when making this project. Not only am I just making a big action film, I'm also making an ensemble piece, meaning it doesn't just have one main protagonist. It has a list of protagonists that help carry the film through and even explain what's going down. And even with that being said, as much as I had memorized Christopher Stewartson's dialogue between Zarab and Mephilas, as much as I enjoyed the film, I only vaguely remembered the human cast's names or even their dialogue pieces, because I don't even know if he even made up names for their characters, because when I saw that fan trailer by Supreme Roshi, he actually had in the credits, as I said, the names of the actors who portrayed them, Ben, Aaron, and Hannah. So I just thought, just adding their names and just kind of helps, give the project an identity, give those characters an identity, I guess. And not only that, but when creating the dialogue, mostly for the humans, I want to add a little bit of humor, almost a metatextual sense, because, like I said, while I didn't memorize what they said line for line, I thought to just really make the dialogue stand out, they make really funny comments like, am I stuttering? Yes, those aliens. And even, we don't have Gamera for the budget of the film, or something along those lines. And I really don't want people to get the impression that because I don't memorize the dialogue, that I add these jokey words to it, that they think I'm really trying to, demean or really belittle the human cast on every Godzilla film, because that's not really the point of that all. It really is just to, really entertain the audience, to give us some really fun sequences with the dialogue. And the person who voices General Clay in this sequence is done by Zippy Collabs, otherwise known as Melissa Downing. My neighbor, no less. Yeah, you know how I said I didn't know that many female actors? Well, I didn't, but I did at least know a couple of females, and they were happy enough to help me out with this, as I already said. And here we have Godzilla's very first sequence. And I gotta say, the music I added to this, as much as I wanted to utilize Akira Toriyama's bwomp, 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 utilizing the music from Terror of Mechagodzilla really feels symbolic almost, because that was part of the last Godzilla Showa era movies that bookended the Showa era, and to have it introduce Godzilla after he's essentially been on a hiatus in the events of the film, just having him appear at that, and with that really booming music happening as he jumps out of the water, that was really fun to add in the show. And by the way, I think I said this already, not sure if I did, but this is the first sequence I had animated. All the dialogue between Zarab and Mephilas on Mars, and even on Earth when they fought Godzilla, I filmed that first, and then I filmed the human sequences, and then I filmed this whole fight sequence between Godzilla, King Ghidorah, and Gyaos last, because I knew this was going to be by far the longest sequence we were going to see in the whole film. And I'm not sure if I also mentioned this, but Christopher Stewartson's films, that clocked in at 28 minutes long, and this movie is only 8 minutes less than that, but I was still able to at least give enough of the context and tell the story through it underneath that time frame. And the music you're listening to, so when I wanted to add music to it, I did want to use licensed songs, despite the fact I knew that it may violate the copyright laws on YouTube, but only because Christopher Stewardson, he himself used songs by bands such as the Ramones or the Misfits in his other projects, and that also may contribute to why some of his films are lost. But with that being said, he does still have a couple of films that does utilize songs by the Ramones and even Misfits. But when creating this, I actually started off using copyright-free music, such as what you heard before, Endless Storm by Makai Symphony. In the first edition of this film, I used a copyright-free song for this fight sequence called White Lights by the Blue Deer. And I really wanted to utilize a almost 70s-esque rock music that really not only gets the audience pumped up to watch the sequence, but also have really almost nostalgic fun to it. Because with this also being a Showa era-esque Godzilla project, it really relies on nostalgia to make people reminisce on how they probably liked Godzilla back in their younger years. But as I was saying, this music, which is Led Zeppelin's Achilles' Last Stand, even though I knew utilizing licensed song was gonna violate the copyright laws on YouTube, I wanted to make use of a cover song. That way I could at least give some leniency to utilizing said music. And this cover is done by Luis Zamorano Music, I believe. I'm really sorry if I pronounced your name. I asked him on Instagram for the DMs because I saw he made a cover of it on YouTube, and when DMing him, I made sure I sent him my copyright-free music and actually upload that first on YouTube and then show him that later, because that would help sell that I'm trying to take this project very seriously, and if I want to use a song, I really wanted to use a song for something really special. And thankfully, he really understood what I meant by that, and he gave me permission, because that is something that anyone who's creating any form of media, whether it's movies, games, or shows, when you want to utilize something that was made by another person, whether it's an idea or a song, you really want to ask permission by the original owner first, because it really helps to build bridges rather than building up walls and just steal someone's content, as that's something I want to talk about later on in the film. When creating this whole fight sequence, I was really concerned about making shots or scenes of it that really feel repetitive. For example, if Godzilla has a sequence where he's just punching Gaios or just laser beaming King Ghidorah, I didn't want to just have that happen just over and over again, or just film it in really cool angles or whatnot. I really wanted to show something that really just came off as innovative and creative. So while we do have a sequence where King Ghidorah and Godzilla, have a beam battle, we still have very fun sequences like how it ends. For example, Godzilla notices rocks in front of him and uses them to minimize King Ghidorah's beam power, so he's able to overwhelm him. Something else to note, just about this whole film in general. While I was essentially creating a remake of Christopher's original idea of this movie, there were, some creative liberties I took, like this whole fight in general. This is clearly something he couldn't have created if you watch his style of kaiju action. And with that being said, that doesn't mean, mine is better by any means. I'm not trying to implicate that under any circumstance. I just knew that when creating this film, I not only want to create my own style, but I also want to give my own tone and attitude to it, because utilizing almost music, or just utilizing music like this that gets the audience, excited to see it, where it's very fast paced and these characters are just jumping all around and using their laser beams all in different crazy ways. I really just wanted to have legitimate, crazy, elaborate fun with this. Almost, pretty much on a similar tone to what the Showa era could do on their level. And while I was doing those creative liberties, I did the same thing for the dialogue for the humans, because I can only vaguely remember what they said in Christopher's original iteration. And with that being said, God, I'm saying that a lot. While this is also a remake, there are some shot-for-shot and line-for-line moments. Mostly, like I said, for Zarab and Mephilas, because they were the dialogue and sequences I remember immensely from Christopher's film. So much so that when his film was on YouTube at the time, before it became Lost Media, I actually added a timestamp comments to all the moments with Zarab and Mephilas, so I could just skip to see what they did, because that's just really what stood out to me back then in 2012. And with also that in mind, this is a very interesting sequence, because we are about to approach, we're getting here a little earlier, Gaios' death, because in the original iteration, in Christopher's version, I believe Gaios actually died by being hit by King Ghidorah's laser beams via a cheap shot, like King Ghidorah hit him from behind and didn't see it coming. Though for my iteration, I had King Gaios pretty much be caught up between King Ghidorah and Godzilla's beam battle, and I thought, not to toot my own horn, but I like the sequence better, because as much as Godzilla is trying to take on two monsters at once, it really is King Ghidorah and Godzilla that have a vendetta with one another, and Gaios is just the monster that's literally caught between the crossfire, and I thought it made sense for their death to play out as it did. And as for King Ghidorah, for their death, I really wanted King Ghidorah to be shaded as a silhouette in black while being in front of a white background. But with that being really difficult to do, having this shot just as King Ghidorah remains, as well as Godzilla's blue beam, atomic breath, I should say, that really went off as a sequence cool on its own right, and I really did like how it turned out. And yeah, fun fact, this whole fight sequence was 7 minutes long, and Achilles' Last Stand by Led Zeppelin and by Lewis's cover, that's a 8-minute long song, so I managed to condense it just to be 7 minutes enough, and I really did like how I edited it down to end with this fading out to the end, where it really comes off as, flows appropriately, I guess I should say. And remember when I was talking about how I remember shot for shot and lines for lines from Christopher's original film? This is one of those sequences where Zarab and Mephilas first take on Godzilla. This is pretty much how the fight went down in Christopher's film. And I think you can really tell because literally before the sequence, we saw Godzilla going on with King Ghidorah and Gaios just to absolute insanity, where it's just breaking the laws of physics, where it's just mind-bendingly crazy. And then when we come to this sequence, things are a little more subdued because, alien Mephilas are known for having alien powers, where they could blast lasers, they can fly all around. They could do the same things King Ghidorah and Gaios could do, except they're not, rampaging monsters. They're, dignified in their own way, Saiyans. And with that being said, I still did like the idea that because the fight is subdued, it is because Godzilla just went through 7 minutes of hell taking on King Ghidorah and Gaios. And with that being said, although he did just come back from a big battle, he's still going after blood between these two aliens. I was honestly really curious when Christopher filmed that sequence where Mephilas tries to talk down Godzilla, because it made me think, does Godzilla actually understand the English language, or is Mephilas just communicating in a way to Godzilla that he understands Mephilas' intentions? But with that being said, it's still a sequence I want to play out because I love the idea that even if Godzilla is trying to be reasoned with, he's not a reasonable monster. Okay, he's called the king of the monsters for a reason, and he's not one to let his enemies retreat for another day. And this music coming up right here is Jimmy Shaker Day, which, as most movie fans know, played in Spider-Man, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man from 2002. And what was interesting was that when I first filmed the copyright-free music edition of this film, I wanted to utilize songs that were copyright-free, two of them being titled Reckless Shred and Punkin' Donuts, just because they have a real punk rock feel, because that was the similar tone Christopher utilized in his credit sequence of the film. But it was funny that the copyright-free version I used for the ending song in that version is titled Go Get 'Em Tiger, which is the same line of dialogue Kristen Dunst would say in Spider-Man 2, 2004. So it's kind of unintentional coincidence right there. But yeah, utilizing this song, I gotta tell you, I really want to search for a cover version of the song just so I wouldn't violate the copyright laws, but there doesn't exist that anywhere else, which is kind of ironic because it's just like Christopher's version of Godzilla, the War of Zarab and Mephilas also being lost media, or just not existing in general. With that being said, I am happy that I was able to at least make 2 editions of the film, and that I'm able to publicly reveal them on the interwebs. Because y'all don't know this, but I'm not monetized on YouTube. I don't make money off of my content, and I don't really intend to do that, at least not on YouTube, because what the intentions of my films are trying to do is just let people know that while there is a sense of, determination to get something done, they're done because I enjoy doing them. They're done because I love telling a story between these characters, and I love telling the stories that were once told by someone that can no longer tell the story because their videos were either taken down by copyright or they just weren't proud of it. But there are people like me who are part of the audience that loved what they created and wanted to not only create their own content, but even give a form of tribute, because I don't just consider this film a remake. It is a tribute to Christopher Stewardson and what he made almost 14 years ago, I think, or 12 years ago. 14 years ago, I believe. Yes, it's 14 years, back in 2012. And I'm really glad I was able to get this project done when I was able to. And while this was essentially a hobby, I didn't really set myself a due date for it. I still wanted to make sure I had this done to the best of my ability. And yeah, these sequences right here where you see my hands, that was a mistake. I didn't know I recorded that. But I kept it in just so I could add to the credits. But this time lapse was something I really want to add because getting back to what I said about wanting to ask people permission for what they use, that is something a lot of people are being concerned about because of the rise of artificial intelligence that takes data and creates essentially AI slop and crap content that nobody legitimately wants to see, just because we know it's someone that just typed in a text of what they want to see rather than create something for themselves. And that's something I wanted to show, that I didn't just create something for myself. I made something alongside with people who had the exact same enjoyment as I did. And I really hope that's the main takeaway people get from this. Anyways, I pretty much gone even longer than the film. Thank you so much for listening to my commentary track. I really hope you'll all will stick around for other potential projects I'll create, whether it's Lego or Godzilla related or not. And thank you. Thank you so much for watching this. Please support all of my cast members and Louis Zamorano's music as well. They all contributed a really great deal to this film and for hopefully upcoming projects in the future. This is Osiris the God, signing off.